Hey guys, it's your humble host Raquel if you prefer, so I'm back with another video. This one's going to be a bit more heavy and we'll be building off a video I put out a while ago during a certain custody case. No, I'm not involved with that anymore. I have completely removed myself. I know nothing. I speak nothing on it anymore. Anyway, so in a nutshell, during that particular custody case, I had brought up my own struggles due to my own traumatic past and things like that. So I've been doing some thinking lately, and what I've been thinking about, well, this is actually kind of a conglomerate of like the past few months, as I put something out a few months ago that I think might have freaked out some people. Not entirely sure. I'll show you like an image, or the image will be in the thumbnail. But I wanted to talk about something that really I've never heard discussed before. And as I've been dwelling on it, and I spoke with my husband about a day or so ago on it, pretty much it's this, is it has to do with your self-identity, but it's being allowed to be yourself and express yourself while you are in pain. Now, as weird as that sounds, because you have constant talks about depression, PTSD, those are all, or even suicide prevention, along with many other mental problems. But that's not, like, the mental problems can come from traumatic experiences, but that's not quite the same as being allowed to, I don't want to say act out, because this does not give you permission to act like a shitty person. This does not make it okay for you to lash out at other people and treat them or possibly abuse them the same way that it was done to you. So this is by no means okaying such behavior or condoning such behavior. And also a small disclaimer, once again, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a psychiatrist, none of those things. I just want to talk about something that I feel has never been put out to the public before, and I know I sure as hell haven't found anything on it. As I've talked about on this channel before, growing up, there was really not any sources for me to go by in regards to how to deal with my own stuff. My family didn't know how to deal with it. I had people run away from me that had no idea how to deal with it. But anyway, so with that disclaimer out of the way, I'm going to try my best to explain it, because I thought about writing something out, but I don't feel as though even with writing I could describe it fully, because it's a hard thing to describe. So being yourself while you are in pain, being able to express certain things while you are in pain. As the saying goes, pain before pleasure. You have to learn to walk through the pain, or you have to learn to get comfortable with something that could be possibly painful before it becomes pleasurable. And there's a whole other argument involved blacks, but that's just, we're going off of that idea. In this case, SA, because intimacy, sex, was something used to destroy an individual, in this case myself, it is therefore still painful. And I won't go really more into that, but that does fall into expressing yourself, or learning to express yourself while you are in pain. Growing up, and I'm not here to bash anybody personal or related or anything like that, but growing up, I had too many people try to normalize my behavior or get me to behave normally. Now, this is normal no pun intended, for people who don't know how to deal with survivors or know what certain things to look for. So this creates a whole other plethora of problems. And in my case, I, on top of another situation in which I've talked about my sister on this channel before, won't go into it. But yes, she is a victim of parent alienation, which that played a very significant role in our house. So that also led to part of my problem as well, is not only did my family not understand how to deal with certain things or understand certain things, but coupled with my sister acting out due to the parent alienation that she was being forced to go through and didn't have an understanding of what was going on. Pretty much in a nutshell, because I believe I've talked about this too. My bio mom turned my sister into a weapon against my family to get back at my dad. She tried to do the same thing with me in a different way, a very horrible, fucked up way, but it didn't work. And so that is why I don't have a relationship with her whatsoever. Now, with that being said, going back to the problem, is due to the complications at home, because I have yet to find somebody who fully understands the ramifications, side effects, past behaviors of a survivor, someone that I can talk to and get professional help. It is a very, very difficult road because there's not a whole lot of information out there, and the information that is out there is partially tainted with other shit that doesn't need to be there. So, growing up, I was not able or allowed to extent to express myself in the pain that I was in, because there was such a focus to try to normalize me or get me to display normal behavior. And due to the other stuff that was going on, especially with my sister, I had to learn how to, unfortunately, put it all in a box. Well, more than a box. I had to put heavy chains and locks on it. And when you have a child that does this, again, I'm not a mental professional, I'm not a counselor, I'm just speaking from experience, is when you have somebody who is taught, whether unintentionally or intentionally, that they have to stuff all this away, that it is too much for people to bear, it is too much of a burden. Again, I had youth pastors run far away from me. They pretty much learned to stuff everything away. I was, as I said on my channel before, I was emotionally distant. Really didn't make a whole lot of friends growing up, considered mental, had odd behaviors. For those of you who don't remember, I'm also high functioning autistic, which thankfully I have grown quite a lot out of over the years, just because it was much worse, much, much worse when I was younger. Thankfully, it's not like that anymore. But with having to learn to stuff everything away because people can't deal with it, causes more hurt and just suffocation that people may not be fully aware of. I mean, everybody stuffs things in jars, personally to some degree. Some people can't do it at all, others do it too much. But when you have people who do that, just in general, just to take it off me for a second, but when you have people who do that in general, not only do they stuff the pain away, do they stuff all these emotional scars, they keep their distance, they become very private people, they also stuff away the good parts about themselves. And because they're not able to have that pain breathe, because they're not able to express that pain or walk that pain out or have someone there who understands, and this is just, again, coming back from my experience, I do not speak for anybody else except for me, is certain parts, like for me, certain parts I started to look at as, well, we'll just go with evil, or, oh, I don't want this part out and about. This part needs to go locked away forever. And you guys have seen small flesh outs in my channel, for those of you who have been on my channel for quite a while. My Black Spade, Forbidden Chambers, the Dark Avatar I once in a while use. So there's a lot more meaning to those things, and when you have, again, because I had to stuff pretty much all my pain away, and as I discussed in the other video, link is going to be in the description. Granted, it's long, it's about like 40 minutes-ish. I had talked about how my biological mother was not ever talked about in the best light, and I did, quote, rightfully so, but at the same time, it fucked with my image a great deal. Not only because I share the looks of the very two nastiest women that I am by blood related to, but there was just nothing good to say. Now, I did release, and I'm going to put a link in the description below of this video, and this is one last video I addressed to my sister as her anniversary, 10 years passed in April. But I did a video sooner than that because I didn't want to make a morning video every single year, and it's like, well, no, it's time to move on. She's not coming back. And in that video, I had, it was a text with music video. I had put that our bio mom, her real self, died a long time ago and was replaced with an imposter. So, and people don't talk about this either, that when parents become abusive, or a friend, or even a spouse, they throw away them real selves, and an imposter takes their place. An imposter can be born from their own hurts, from their own insecurities, from their own issues, and it's not them anymore. It's somebody, and I'm speaking like figurative terms, just to be clear, but it's somebody who is taking over their body and is now abusing you, but it looks like them, and I don't know how else to say that. But because this differentiation was not made when I was smaller, and because I couldn't express certain parts of myself that were in pain, and when I started to mature in other ways and grow in other ways, these new budding parts became really problematic because they were instantly attached to the other crap I had on the table, and it's just like, whoa, no one is looking at this other stuff on the table and trying to help me figure it out. So when this new stuff just popped up, so I guess that all goes behind the door, and it's going to stay there. So, and it's in a way that it's been traumatic in itself, because now that I am going to be 31 years old here soon, there are certain things that I just don't know how to do. There are certain things that I can't do right now because I never learned how to do them. And I'm not talking about skills, degrees. I mean, personal skills is a little part of it, but I'm talking about like with emotional stuff. And I'm hoping other people can relate or understand, hopefully. But when you don't have the chance or opportunity, and people try to go out of their way to normalize you instead of focusing on why you're acting this way. And I've mentioned this before in post where my dad tried to talk to me about a lot of stuff, and I wasn't getting it when I was younger because the understanding, because I hadn't walked through that pain, wasn't there. I get it now. There's so much stuff I can fall back on and go, holy crap, I get what he's saying now, and I use it for my own foundation. But with that being said, it has caused such a stunt in certain things, certain parts of myself, to where it's just like, I don't know what to do with this stuff. I don't even know how to process certain stuff, much less register it, because I wasn't taught how to differentiate the pain from what was supposed to be something good, something, and I'm not saying that my abuse was good. What I'm saying is what was used to abuse me when I was smaller was not supposed to be used that way. But hopefully I'm making sense, because this video is already starting to drag on to 15 minutes. In a nutshell, and as you can see in the image and the thumbnail, I actually got inspired for that because there's another video, and I'll put a link in the description. I'm now listing a bunch of videos. Is that you have, when you are forced to stuff things away, just in general, just stuff it all away, is you create this image. This image is not you. And in my case, and I'm not, people may giggle or laugh, so people know me on my channel long enough now. Channel's pretty much stabbed to death, kicking a dead horse. But I don't portray myself as some sort of internet tough guy, far from it. I'm a hard ass, yes. I stick to my guns, yes. I don't care for a lot of shit that goes on here, yes. I'll watch it with a cup of tea, but I will stay far away from it. But the image that I created has to do with a mirror, and in that mirrored image is a knight with spiked armor. When you have to stuff things away, you are pretty much putting on that spiked armor, because when you do have people that get close to you or try to get close to you, they end up running away because of what you carry, or they realize that you are too much for them to handle, or they just don't want to deal with it, or it's weird to them, or something of that nature. And in my case, I've had to continuously build up this armor for various reasons. I had to build it up when I went to trade school, which that ended up to be a colossal disaster because of freaking scumbags in charge of the place. So I was kind of screwed out of certain opportunities over there, but me and my husband had to fight to get out at the same time because people over there were fucked up. I've had to fight employers. I've had to fight internet people off. I've had to fight personal people off because I didn't either agree with certain things or I didn't kowtow to certain things. The list goes on. So I've unfortunately had to put on this hardened shell, hard-ass shell, because that's the only way that I would have gotten any peace. Whether that's, and I don't go out of my way to look for drama, nothing like that. As I've said before, I have removed myself from various things, just because it's, at the end of the day, it's not worth it. At the end of the day, these people aren't around me, they're not in my home, they don't pay my bills, I don't help take care of them, vice versa, so I no longer care. But it does get lonely when you have to continuously wear that armor that keeps all that stuff sealed, and when you do have certain people who try to get closer to you, you end up stabbing them or lashing out, and it's not fun. And so I just kind of want to reach out and talk to those of you in the audience who hear what I'm saying, is that it's okay to be yourself when you are in pain, and the self that's in pain is different from the self that's healed and has walked through, and there's an in-between. And again, this is not justify people being shitty because something happened to them a few years ago or 30 years ago. And yes, traumatic experiences can last a while, can last a very long time. Depending on the person, they could have buried something, their mind could have subconsciously buried stuff. And then years later, it could have been triggered because the mind feels now it is mature enough, that you are mature enough to reveal it. And some people don't fully remember that stuff at all. And that's not a bad thing. But it is okay, and I don't target my content at children. If I have parents watching this, if I have, I don't know, young people watching this that are just kind of going through the walk, the struggle, and you know somebody who's had a traumatic experience and they're off kilter, they don't understand what is, I guess, normal for an individual to do. It's not easy, and not everybody knows how to do it, but they are that person for that time. Now, with that being said, you do have to walk through your struggles. You do have to overcome that pain, or you're pretty much going to rot and decay and continue to devolve. And it does help to have someone to talk to. Now, this is another thing I want to bring up. Not everybody does. And unfortunately for me, growing up, I really didn't have a lot of people to talk to about my struggles because I really didn't understand them. I knew what I secretly wanted or secretly dreamed about, but I didn't understand why I was afraid of certain things. I didn't understand why people pushed for certain things. I'm not saying that the things that they pushed for were unhealthy. Closeness with somebody pushing for that is not unhealthy, but there are boundaries and other things that you must be mindful of. And well, at the same time, is people have to learn how to come out of their comfort zone, and if they want the relationship to grow and change and become deeper, whether that's friendship, romantic, what have you, growth has to come out on both sides. Both people have to grow and change, and it causes the relationship to change. And depending on the change of the people, the relationship can go south or can continue to keep going up. But going back to what I was saying, is not everybody has that person to talk to, and not everybody knows how to be that person for someone else to talk to about that stuff. I can talk about my experiences, but I feel as though I cannot be there for somebody else because I haven't fully walked out my own stuff, so I don't even try to counsel other people. None of my videos are trying to counsel other people. Just no. That can get you into all kinds of trouble. You can cause people to hurt themselves even more, if not hurt other people and each other. But yeah, when somebody doesn't have someone else to talk to who understands, and multiple someones, I recommend multiple, because someone trying to use one person, that's a horrible wording, trying to just have one person to talk to about this stuff can be mentally taxing on them. So I would encourage you, if you find actual healthy, a couple of someone's who know what they're doing. And but like I said, for me, I really did not have someone's. Youth pastors, no. Friends, not really didn't have them. When I would go to express my story, because this is kind of another reason why I don't like church, didn't like church growing up, I would just get stared at because people didn't know how to respond. And that does come in tow with something that my dad, from his own experiences, voiced a lot, is be careful who you tell your story to, because people may not understand and they may take it and run and twist whatever it is you're saying. So something I want to build off of that is be careful who you tell your story to or talk to until you can voice your story with clarity and understanding of what happened to you. So, and not a whole lot of people are able to do that. Not a whole lot of people even learn how to do that. And thankfully for me, I will say one of the things, because this is, as I've described before, is one of the main reasons I was able to walk through a lot of this stuff, and this wasn't till more after my sister died, is the chambers of my heart. As I've described in the other video, is it's an expression. It is not a name I own. It is not a name I came up with. This phrase, mostly religious, has been around for years. I own the, how do I call it, flesh out of it, this particular illustration of it, but I do not own the actual name. So with that being said, I do feel when I started to create the chambers, like with my poetry, and other things like that, and just started to flesh out these problems and started to get more and more vocal because I understood more of what had happened. I was able to put it into words so that others may read and understand, and possibly relate. The chambers helped me figure out a lot of stuff because I was forced to figure out a lot of this stuff on my own because I didn't have people there. I didn't have a counselor who was well versed in this stuff. None of the church people I spoke with had any freaking idea as to what they were doing. I had one lady, which I told her I want to talk private. She takes me to a bloody coffee shop. So I've had to figure this stuff out on my own. I've had to, and of course God has helped me. I'm not saying that I'm the genius behind everything. But I've had epiphanies from God. I've had revelations, and the latest one is I didn't have anyone there. I wasn't able to express who I was in my pain. I had started to act a certain way, dress a certain way, dress more like a guy, and I did talk about in the video below, one of the videos, where I had developed a male persona just to protect myself, so people would leave me alone so I could try to figure out what was going on, because I wasn't getting any answers from anyone, and the answers I got didn't make sense or were detrimental. And I've talked about on this channel before how the church treats sexual education, and I'm not talking about all the crap that they're trying to target at small, still developing children. That can all go burn in the pits of hell, the deepest circle of hell. I'm talking about the actual sexual education that you give appropriately to teenagers and talk to them about the upcoming changes that they're discovering mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I didn't get that conversation, and the conversation I got was very, very fucking twisted and very fucked up, which did not help me whatsoever. So, yeah. I'm sorry that this video is rambly, and thankfully it's not as emotional as I thought it was going to be, because this stuff is still kind of hard to talk about. It's gotten easier, and because, I know why I am the way I am for a reason. It's hard to let go of certain things, because it has either kept me safe or because there's just too much complexity or stuff I don't understand. With autistic people, especially high functioning, we must have logic to everything. So if there's not logic to it for me, I'm not going to fuck with it. If it personally applies to me, or somebody tries to personally apply it to me, or like a situation, and it doesn't make sense to me, I'm just gonna walk away. I really am. But yeah, so I just kind of wanted to get this out there. Have you guys experienced this? Were you guys able to express yourselves that self-view that was in pain? And of course, yes, you have to, if you want there to be change, if you want to be able to learn to live rather than just survive, you have to walk through that stuff. But were you guys forced to figure this out on your own? Did you guys have someone there? Because for me, and this video is so rambly, and I'm so sorry. I don't know how to get this out all the way, but people don't talk about this. This is why I put out videos like this. I've seen people talk about their traumatic past, and they do it in a way to where either they give out too many details, or there wasn't really a resolution, and I'm not downing other people who tell their story. No, far from it. I'm just saying the videos I have seen put out, they talk about what happened, but not so much the struggles, if that makes sense. They focus more on the incident itself more than the side effects and what they did to walk through those struggles. So I have not seen very many of those. I could be dead wrong. I don't go out of my way to look for those videos anymore. They used to be more my suggestions box when I was more involved with the anti-SJW community, when that was more of a thing, like 6 years ago. Holy crap, it's been that long. That community is now way dead, and does not exist anymore. But yeah, I put these videos out there to share experiences, to start a conversation, because thankfully, I have been able to speak clear enough to where others have understood what I was saying, whether it's poetry or videos like this I put out. And I really felt like this was important. I talked about survivors / victims of sexual abuse, domestic violence, just abuse in general, being able to develop their voice and learn how to speak their stories with clarity and their struggles with clarity. But another thing that's also important, and I am really realizing just how important this is those victims / survivors have to be able to express themselves in their pain. And yes, they're probably going to act a little bit funny. Yes, they're not going to act normal. They're probably going to dress weird. They're probably going to talk weird for a while. There's probably certain things that just make them really uncomfortable. And I don't pretend to understand all of those things. Some of those things may seem silly to me because I have either grown past them or they were never an issue for me. And this is the same with everybody. I knew, one of the groups I try to be a part of at church, they had a woman who, I can't remember exactly what her situation was, what her condition was socially, but she was so nervous, and made her so nervous coming into the room with several other people. Now, granted, this was all women, and there was no men, and I don't think that really made a difference, but she was not comfortable coming in to where everyone's presence in the room, if I remember this correctly, overwhelmed her. And she had to sit on the hallway, and someone was designated to go and talk with her through the variation of this meeting. And that's just one example. I didn't understand why she was overwhelmed. In retrospect, it was none of my business. It was like, hey, she really just can't be in here, so we're going to send somebody up to go talk with her while everyone else gets talked to by another person. So things like that. And yes, the person has to learn to overcome those struggles and boundaries, and there's a give and take, there's balance, but not everybody gets that. I didn't get that balance growing up because people really didn't understand. And if you are not able to express yourself in your pain, and I don't want to necessarily say there's boundaries. I'm not advocating for drugs. I'm not saying, oh, well, this person got abused, so it's okay for them to go do drugs or get drunk or whatever other stupid shit. I'm not saying none of that. But their mannerisms may be funny. They may do things that it just doesn't make sense to you. But if people aren't allowed to express themselves and their pain, especially those who have been abused, and because when they do that, you start to understand why they feel the way they do and ask them. Not everybody's able to vocalize it, but if you're around the person enough and you try to understand them enough and you go and you encourage them to talk to someone and you sit in on some of those meetings, with permission, of course, you start to see why they do things the way that they do. And it just, for me, because that wasn't really done, as I said, I had too many people try to normalize me or make my behavior normal. I wasn't able to walk out certain things. I wasn't able to express certain things, and because I wasn't able to express certain things in my pain or deal with or have the room to breathe in those things, I now am struggling with expressing other things that are supposed to be healthy at my age, that are supposed to be normal in a marriage. And I don't even know how to describe it. I don't even know if people are going to understand what I'm saying, because it's something that people don't ever talk about. It's not talked about. So I'm hoping I'm portraying it correctly. That's why I kind of wanted to do a video instead of writing, so you can kind of see my emotions behind it, and they're just, anyway. But yeah, so retrospect, hindsight, very important. This whole ramble video, if you've made it to this point, people are going to express themselves in their hurt in very different ways. Now, what's important is they don't go down a destructive path, that they are being given space to, and I'm not saying it's okay for them to lash out, but they're just being given space to breathe. And it could be hard to do so. It could be hard even for me, because I grew up without that space, so to speak. I don't know how to do it for other people, because my brain has been wired to just stuff everything's like, oh, well, get over it, you're fine, it's not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know how to always do that for other people, because it was not particularly necessarily done for me. So I have to learn how to do it now in my own pain, and then that will open the door to be able to express other things. Which does require that same space, understanding, and patience. So, again, nobody talks about this, and that does help to shape your identity. That does help to shape who you are, because unfortunately, some people get stuck in that pain. They adopt that pain as their identity and nothing more. And then they can also, because their behaviors may seem weird to other people, they start to adopt the image that people think of them. Like something that my dad said, and we were talking about this, and I'm hoping I word this right, because it's kind of a tongue twister, but it makes sense. You perceive people perceiving how you perceive yourself. So in a nutshell, is you adopt the image that people see of you. Does that make sense? The image, like for me, growing up, because of my abuse, I was seen as weird, strange. kind of avoided. Actually, no, very much avoided. So because people thought I was strange, I adopted that image and made it a part of my image, even though it's not a realistic part of my image. I'm hoping that makes sense. Because at first when he wrote it out, we were texting, and I'm just going like, what does that even mean? And I had to reread it a couple times. And it's just like, oh, so when people aren't able to walk that stuff out, or they get stuck in there because they have to put it all away, it really messes with their identity. And in my case, it very much did mine. I don't want to carry on this video much further because, oh my gosh, we're over 40 minutes now. But I'm hoping you guys understand what I am saying. I might write it out in something more clear. I don't know. But again, having people be able to express who they are in their pain, because a lot of filters, their mirrors, their self-image, who they think they are, it's just fucking it's a mess. It is a fucking mess. So even if those mirrors are broken, even if those filters are damaged, it is so important to let that person breathe and walk that out. And yes, it's going to be a struggle for them. They're going to kick and butt when messing with that and trying to have that healed or worked on, because it's painful. They're in survival mode at that point. When you're having to stuff all that stuff away, you are in survival mode. You're not living, you're surviving. And so they're going to kick and butt. But it's important to have that so they can later express themselves, so you can actually see who they fully are later on down the line. So with that being said, I'm sorry for the long video, but I really felt it was important to get out. With that, I will see you guys in the next video.